Hello and welcome back to our studies here on the internet. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy this video. We're going to be talking about the patterns that we find in the Bible. God is a God of patterns, and the Bible is full of evidence of the patterns that He has for us. In the story of creation, we see it time and time again. Notice Genesis chapter 1 and verse 11. Then God said, "Let the earth sprout vegetation, plant yielding seed, and fruit trees on the earth, bearing fruit after their kind, with seeds in them." And it was so. This idea of the plants and the animals producing after their own kind is something that we see all around us. In fact, I have in my hand here a tiny little nut, which is the seed pod for the majority of these trees behind me. They're called jarrah trees. And inside this hard wooden seed pod, it is filled with the seeds that grow these mighty jarrah trees. These trees all produce seeds which produce other seeds after their kind. It's the pattern that's found in the seed. And of course, the pattern is found in the DNA in the seed. And we know that it's the same with animals and with humans. We produce after our own kind. And that's the pattern we see that. As we go through the scriptures, we see God shows this same idea of pattern in the way that he told Noah how to build the ark, and the way that he told Abraham how to build the tabernacle. He gave them a pattern to follow, and when they did that, he was very pleased with them. In the New Testament, we see patterns for how we should live our lives, how we should worship God, and how we should be saved. And this is what we're going to be looking at. Men have many different ways that they say that we can be saved, but the Bible makes it very clear that there is only one way to be saved. In John chapter 14 and verse 6, it says, "Jesus said to him, 'I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me.'" Now, we are not saved by any other means save by Jesus Christ. Muhammad will not save us. Buddha will not save us. We will not be saved by the Hindu gods. Salvation only comes through Jesus Christ. And Jesus gives us the means and the pattern for salvation. Now, men have devised many different ways to be saved. Some will say you pray the sinner's prayer. Others will say, well, we're saved by faith only. Others will say that God just chooses those who are saved. Others will say, well, we are saved when we're baptized as babies. Others, no, we have to be adults to be baptized and be saved. But what does Jesus say? What does Jesus tell us we have to do to be saved? And he makes it very clear for us. In the passage we read in Mark 16 and verse 16, we read the words of Jesus. Now notice, "He who has believed and has been baptized shall be saved, but he who has disbelieved shall be condemned." So Jesus gives this in a very neat nutshell, this pattern of what we have to do to be saved. First of all, it says we have to believe. Now we have to believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and believing in him, we will obey what he tells us. We will leave our sinful life and we will follow Jesus. If we don't believe enough to follow Jesus, we don't really believe in him. So that's the first thing we have to do. We have to believe, and then we have to be baptized. Now, baptism simply means immersion in water. It's not sprinkling. It's not pouring. That's not what the word means. Baptism means immersion. So we see that to be saved, we have to be able to believe. A child cannot believe. A baby cannot believe. Only someone who is cognizant can believe. And then we have to be baptized. Faith only has no place here in this. A sinner's prayer has no place in that. He who has believed and has been baptized shall be saved. Well, you think, if that's the pattern that we have in the Bible, we ought to see it in the passages where it talks about people being saved. Well, of course, that's exactly what we do. We do see. We're going to go over to the book of Acts now, and we're going to be looking at the Ethiopian nobleman who is about to be saved. The preacher Philip is teaching him, and we start our reading in chapter 8, Acts chapter 8, verse 36. And as they went along the road, they came to some water, and the eunuch said, "Look, water, what prevents me from being baptized?" And Philip said, "If you believe with all your heart, you may." And he answered and said, "I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God." And he ordered the chariot to stop, and they both went down into the water, and Philip as well as the eunuch, and he baptized him. Verse 39, when they came up out of the water, the Spirit of the Lord snatched Philip away, and the eunuch no longer saw him, but went on his way rejoicing. You see, when Philip preached to this Ethiopian, he preached that he needed to be baptized. And the eunuch knew what that was. It would require much water. The road that they were traveling on was a desert road. He would have had enough in his chariot, his drinking water, if sprinkling was sufficient. But no, he saw water at the side of the road, an oasis, we could say, and said, "Look, water, what prevents me from being baptized?" Now notice Philip's answer. And our thoughts go straight back to what we read in Mark 16:16. He said, "If you believe, you may." He's saying, sir, if you want to be saved, not only do you have to be baptized, but you have to believe. And so we see the answer from the Ethiopian nobleman. Verse 37, and he answered and said, "I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God." You see, that's a confession of his faith. Well, they stopped the chariot, and they both got out of the chariot because they had to go into the water. And that's just what we read. They went into the water, Philip as well as the eunuch, and he baptized him. Then they came out of the water. That's immersion. Now, the Lord snatched Philip away, and the Ethiopian went on his way rejoicing. Why rejoicing? Well, because he had been saved. He did just what Jesus said. He followed the pattern that we read in the scriptures. And that's how we are saved today, in exactly the same way. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He tells us the way. He tells us how to be saved. And we too can be saved through our faith, believing in Jesus Christ and being baptized for the forgiveness of your sins. If you would like to have more information on this, we can send out material to you. Write to us in the comment section below. Like and subscribe, and look for us next week. We thank you, and we say goodbye for now.